I was looking for a cat cozy, or at least a cozy mystery where a cat plays a major role. So the cat-loving bakery owner in the blurb had my attention. Well, Maddie has a cat, but all he ever does is be in the way. Or at one point he saves her life when the house is on fire, but he has no major impact on the case. Hi guys, I'm Kat. Today I would like to talk about Apple Pie and Arsenic by C.A. Phipps. As I said, the blurb mentioned a cat, so, a cozy mystery with a cat, so I was all in for it. So, as far as the story goes, Maddie goes back home to Maple Falls from New York because her grandma is sick and needs her help with tidying up the house, setting it, and moving somewhere smaller. But really it's all just a ploy by her grandma to get her to move back and open a bakery in her small hometown instead of New York. All together with her old school friends, her grandma manages, and Maddie just moves back. She enters a baking competition where an old friend of hers and the mayor drop dead, and she's one of the suspects. From there on, she scrambles to clear her name and solve the case herself, with the help of her grandma and her friends and her ex, the sheriff. As far as the setting goes, Maple Falls can be cute or creepy, depends on your stance on small towns where everybody knows everything about everybody, or at least thinks they do. That's the kind of town you're in, where she knows virtually all the people from school already. The writing refers to baking in many instances and is generally quite good. But from here on out, I have to start complaining. Like, Maddie by herself is okay as long as she's not with any other character except her grandma. Because with others, like her group of friends has one girl in that she doesn't get along with because she thinks Laura doesn't like her. And it's just like toddler level of conflict where you're like, you could have solved this with one mature conversation in the span of like 2 minutes about this misunderstanding, but no, you need conflict somewhere, instead of the murder or something, so it just gets dragged out quite a bit. But when it does get resolved finally with, one grown-up conversation, it gets tied up so neatly. Like, Laura ran for the mayor's office before, didn't win, and then her true dream is to be a barista anyway, and when Maddie and her grandma can't figure out the coffee machine in their store, she comes to the rescue, but only after the toddler level conflict is resolved, right? So, nothing wrong with being a barista, obviously. If it's the dream, cool, go for it. But that was tied up a bit too neatly within the story for me. It's just like, bit off, but okay. More characters to complain about. The estate agent that Maddie, or her grandma, buy this store and the flat above from is like the stereotypical rich bitch. Apparently has been since school because obviously they all went to school together. And she is so rude. Like, nobody with any business or common sense would talk to a potential client like this. But she's non-stop bitchy and just like, yeah, okay. We identified one of the villains, I suppose. More on that later. Her ex, Ethan, is now sheriff. Apparently when she went to college or wanted to leave for college, they had a massive argument about it because he wanted to stay because he is the proper small town guy who loves everything about the small town, would never leave. Well, she left for New York to go to bakery school or patisserie school, whichever, to become a master baker. So that's how they split up. Apparently that didn't go down too maturely either. Anyway, Ethan is apparently the one eligible bachelor in the whole town because literally every single woman that he talks to in this book drools over him except Maddie's best friend Angel because she has more sense and knows there's still something going on there. Plus I think her divorce didn't go down so well, so she's kind of over men at that point for a minute. So obviously the flame between Maddie and Ethan isn't out yet or anything. And man, there is too much romance, like the subplot with romance, it just didn't work for me. It's like, yeah, okay, you two still have stuff going for each other, that's nice and all, but can you just get going, or do we have to have more toddler level conflict? And yes, we do. We still have to be petty about it or something. Anyway, pacing, more importantly pacing. If I buy a cozy mystery, I expect corpses at some point, but it takes almost 50% of the book, like way too long. She opens the shop, she starts baking, she talks to her grandma, they sort out the house, and it's like, yeah, if I was reading a book about opening a bakery shop and helping your grandma or moving back to your hometown, that would be fine, but I bought a cozy mystery, so where's my body? Yeah, it takes 50% of the book before somebody drops. I was like, I wanted corpses with my cake, but... Anyway, when somebody finally dies, it's at an apple pie contest, and she taste tested all of the entries. Maddie was one of them. Laura was the other, which is the other part of their conflict, where Maddie suspects Laura of being the murderer, which is fairly obviously not the case very soon in. Even while she uncovers the bit that Laura ran for mayor as well and lost against Denise, even there you're like, that's still not it. And you can kind of tell, even there, it's like, okay, this is not it, but okay. Well, for some reason, Maddie thinks that the police sincerely suspect her, even though she has an in the sheriff's office with the sheriff and can just straight up ask him, like, am I still a suspect? And somewhere along the way, she's not, because they established that it wasn't any of the apple pies that killed the mayor. But Maddie still scrambles and investigates, which mostly consists of her grandma and her friends asking or interrogating everybody they know, and I don't know, not the best investigation I've ever seen. Let's just put it that way. Some things just seemed too neat or too immature. Like the investigation, for instance, was too immature. Like you couldn't have really uncovered anything of interest there. Not with your methods, whatever. And then for too neat, when Maddie leaves to actually stay in her hometown, instead of going back to New York where she had plans to open a place of her own with a friend, the friend's just like, yeah, no, that's fine, you stay there, I have a better job offer here anyway. And I'm like, yeah, it's not like opening a business together took up any planning resources or anything else. It's just drop instantly and everything's fine. Well, it must have been fine because her friend even packs up all of her stuff in New York and sends her the stuff. And I'm like, who asks somebody else, unless it's absolutely necessary and you literally can't do it yourself, to pack up your whole flat or house and just send you all of the stuff? Just like, okay. Would never occur to me to ask that of anybody, unless I'm incapacitated, but okay. Oh yeah, Maddie keeps showing how mature she is, because at some point she's riding in the car with Ethan and he mentions that he had a fling with Denise, the mayor. It was something casual. Neither of them was really involved or didn't or cared too much. But Maddie obviously had to freak out, because how could you do this? How could you not tell me? Why did you do this behind my back? And he's like, excuse me, you left 10 years ago. Weren't you engaged to somebody in New York? And also didn't mean anything to either of us. So why do we need to tell you? And I was like, yes, thank you. Thank you for pointing it out. And then she actually shuts up. Not because she wants to, but because she's like, damn, he is right. She would still rather complain further, but, you know, at least she stops at this point, and I totally agree with him here, because, seriously, Maddie, get over yourself. The villain. Maddie goes off to follow Vivian, the estate agent, because obviously the rich bitch has something going on. There must be something wrong with her, so she follows her. Gets knocked out with chloroform. Don't worry, she has a taser in her bra, you know, because that's where you keep stuff, that's where stuff stays, and nobody would possibly notice that you have a taser in your bra, but okay. So she gets knocked out with chloroform, wakes up later, like this is at night when she followed Vivian, and she wakes up in the morning, like she's tied to a chair in the morning, manages to untie herself and knock out the guy that kept her there. And the guy is then introduced like, hey, this is Rolf. It's like the nephew of somebody else. And it was all about the real estate deal. And they wanted to build something where the mayor was blocking them. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? And apparently we met him in like one scene in passing. I don't even think he was named there. He just brushed past Maddie or something. So literally when it came to the reveal, like, hey, this is the guy. And I was like, who is this? I have no idea who this guy is. But apparently the estate agent was working with him. And at that point she got cold feet. And really wanted to back out, but it was obviously too late. Then the police turn up because they were following this guy all along. And at this point you're sitting there like, if you were following either Maddie or this guy, well, Maddie for protective purposes, or this guy because he's a suspect, why did it take you hours to come in here and save her, or try to save her, because by that point she had saved herself, obviously. That's not the end of the shoddy police work. So they arrest these people, then they go back to the station. Instead of putting her in a cell or just interrogating her with a fellow officer or anything, Ethan drags all of them into the office, like Maddie, Maddie's grandma, Laura, her best friend Angel, Vivian and the sheriff, and then they can all lay into Vivian, like they call her names, question her motives, and tell her how shitty she was. And I'm just like, I don't think you can use any of this in court. I mean, I'm obviously not a lawyer, but I don't think any of this would hold up or get used in court, because what the fuck are you doing with like 4 civilians in this office questioning a suspect? But fuck logic. Anyway, the best part at the end, eventually Maddie finally decides, like, oh, I kind of want Ethan still, so, but I can't. Why? Why not? You're both single. We've established that you're still kind of hot for each other, so why can't you? She doesn't tell us. It's just, she can't. It's too complicated or whatever. Didn't seem all that complicated to me, but I mean, what do you expect of somebody who needed 10 years to get over a misunderstanding with a mutual friend? So, whatever. Yes, you can probably tell. This is the cat this book deserves, and there are 5 out in this series at the moment, I think. Yeah, I don't think I'm inclined to keep reading. Not only because the cat doesn't play big enough role, just saying. Also because some of the characters just annoyed me. Oh yeah, Maddie and her friends are called the girls, but with a Z, because that's how you know they are cool. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll be back next week with another book review. Bye!